Okay, tactic two, mindset and study skills. We have a lot to go over here. So this is why I told you guys, make sure you have a pen and pencil, okay? This is the gold. We already in tactic one were able to decipher what were the things that we actually needed to focus on and study, okay? So that eliminates a lot of unnecessary um, investment of your time and energy on things that aren't necessarily going to get you the jobs you want. But now we need to think a little bit about mindset. This is really important, guys. I know that you have heard of mindset before, but maybe you didn't exactly know what it was, and that's okay. Okay, mindset refers to you being, hold on, let me get this out of the way. Mindset refers to you being open and able to really hone in on your possibility for growth. Now, growth mindset in particular is your understanding of the ability that you have to change, okay, to grow. Sometimes people have this false belief that they are already molded and defined. And I assure you, you are not. Some of the things that I hear all the time is, I'm just really not good at math, okay? You cannot define yourself as somebody that's good at math and then expect to succeed, because that's going to be an underlying belief that you have that's going to be getting in your way. So be very mindful of the things that you're saying, thinking, and doing. You have to be in control. You have to be aware, because they do affect you. They will have a direct impact on your results. Remember, we already know what we're studying, so we're training with purpose. We know we're not wasting our time. I also need you guys to think of your why. Why do you want to join the armed forces? Is it because you want a better life for your family? Is it because you want to make more money, have better career opportunities, you want to travel, whatever it is, make sure you have a visual image of it. In my office, I keep a little bit of a mural of all the things that I have accomplished, the things that I want to keep accomplishing. I have pictures of my family, my daughter, things that motivate me. I also have a poster my dad gave me that says, it's hard to beat somebody who doesn't give up. And so every time that I'm not feeling in state, I take a look at them and I stand up and I remind myself and I get a little pumped up and I look at them closely, and I know that that's going to help me get back in state. Bring your body to the state you want to be. A lot of times we're expecting to just get pumped up mentally. The reality is your body has a big factor in it. So make sure you go hug somebody that, is being supportive of you in this moment, that you take a look at that house you want to buy with your VA loan once it gets done, actually get yourself pumped up in the moment. And if it at all possible, I highly recommend having a visual, a picture, even if it's as a bookmark within your book, in your notebook, at the desk that you're working at, something that keeps reminding you of that why. It's important to stay motivated. Remember, guys, you have a plan. You do. You have a plan. We already know what we're studying. Now it's about making sure that you have the desire and the discipline to follow through. Okay. At the end of the day, even if you have the best plan in the world, if you cannot take massive action, then the plan is useless, right? You have to get into the idea that nothing can stop you. So I'm going to give you a quick little exercise. This is one of the ones that I do when I have a student that isn't really feeling like they're feeling very challenged. They're not really sure that they can do this. I encourage you to try and do something similar. So one of the things I hear often is, for instance, I was never good at math, or I don't remember. Let me get this here. Remember this from school. So let me expand that for a second. So when you're telling me this, you aren't really, this is tied to a belief that you have based on past experience. But the reality is very different. The truth is different. Okay, if you're really honest with yourself, the reality is probably more along the lines of when you were in high school, you weren't 100% focused on math. Okay, maybe at the end of the day, you weren't taught this particular topic, right? There are different levels of math classes, or maybe the curriculum didn't include this particular thing. I had a student who told me, to help them with the ASVAB, the math knowledge section, and there were systems in there. And I had to be honest with you, I wasn't taught systems in high school. I learned systems until I was in college. The curriculum has changed from the time that I was in high school till now. However, you need to focus on the idea of, just because I didn't learn it or understand it back then doesn't mean I'm not going to learn it or understand it now. So you have to be able to separate what you were thinking originally with what the real truth is. You need to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. It's not that you weren't good at math, it's that it wasn't your main concern back then. Okay. It's not that you don't remember things that were taught, or, that it didn't stick. It's that you haven't used them. Right. If you ask me right now to do certain levels of calculus, I haven't done that calculus in a long time, and it doesn't mean that I couldn't do it. It just means I need to repractice it. So you need to make sure that you're making these adjustments, because your truths have to give you the benefit of the doubt in order to give you half a chance at scoring this. If you don't, those underlying thoughts end up becoming your excuses. Okay, oh, I wasn't good at math. I'm just too busy. There's too much noise at home. I don't have the proper books or information to get this done. Whatever it is, you can get past it if you're being truthful to yourself. So don't anchor into these false beliefs. Okay. Make sure you have a quiet place to study, and that you're making plan, that you're blocking it out. The reason I tell you this is because it's been proven and accepted scientifically that we cannot focus on more than one thing at once. Yes, people can multitask. I'm not saying that they can't. I can chew gum and walk at the same time, but keep in mind that those tasks don't really require me to focus. When I'm trying to learn something, I can only focus on one thing at a time. So if you're one of those people that's like, no, I really do learn better, like the TV doesn't bother me while I'm studying, I guarantee you that you're going to have gaps in your study if you're not making that effort to give yourself the opportunity to focus 100%. Make sure that someone is helping you stay accountable. What I mean by that is, have a friend, have a family member, just kind of remind you to stay on task. Like, hey, did you do your practice today? Tell me a little bit about what you learned. Ask them for that help. Okay. At the end of the day, we are our strongest when we're supporting each other and asking for help. So at the end of the day, I want you guys to make sure you have somebody that you're relying on this. You could always join our Facebook group, and, we can be your accountability system. But if you have somebody that's constantly, especially somebody that motivates you, somebody that's part of your why, that would be fantastic. Keep your why in mind, right? That's another thing that I want you guys to keep, that little picture, that little face, and make sure you stay pumped and get excited before you study. I cannot stress this enough. Before I even got on to record this video, which is something that I've told people several times already, the idea is I grabbed a cup of coffee, I listened to some music, and I got myself pumped up. Why? Because if I would have sat down here with my head down and just, okay, let's do this. The energy that I am bringing to the table is what I'm going to get out. You cannot sit down and study because you have to. No, you really need to sit down excited about the idea that you're about to knock that skill out. You're going to knock it out of the park. That skill is not going to be a problem for you anymore. And let yourself get happy about it, because that level of excitement is going to increase retention and long-term memory, which we're going to talk about over here in a bit. So mindset is everything, people. Okay, if task 1 was creating a map for where we're going to go, task 2 is getting the energy, the attitude, the equipment ready, setting the stage to actually get started. And trust me, progress is happiness. The second that you feel you're making progress and getting closer to that goal, you are not even going to need to psych yourself up anymore. It's going to be a very natural excitement. One of my favorite quotes, Jim Kwik is a master in helping people learn, and it's particularly people that have certain learning disabilities. And so I've taken seminars, read books, everything, and I'm sure that he didn't coin this quote, but he's the one I heard it from, and I love it. It says, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. So if you're that person that says, man, I would love to ace my ASVAB, but, and you have that but just ready, like, but I'm just so tired at the end of the day, but I'm just, never finding the time really, but I just don't get it. So if you're that person that's going to put effort and fight into the things that are holding you back, you're going to get to keep the results of people that have those excuses, right? I invite you to do the opposite. I want you to fight for how you can break through. I want you to honestly say, you know what? I'm so tired at the end of the day normally, but right now, because I'm so pumped to get this out of the way, because I'm so pumped to learn this skill and for it to not be a hindrance for me anymore, I am ready. I'm good. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to blow this out of the water. I want you to be that person that says I'm just going to get up 30 minutes earlier every day. I can do it. Or I'm going to sacrifice some Netflix time, whatever it is. There is a way to step away from those limitations if you really look for it. So that in mind, let's talk about studying, right? This is why you're here. Okay. How do I study? How do I ace this test, Anna? I honestly feel that this is one of the things that, we sometimes have a hard time accepting. I've been a teacher for a very long time, close to 20 years. And I will tell you something. I know for a fact that in schools, the way things work is there's no kind way to say it. And I mean no disrespect to any of my colleagues or to the work that I did for several years. But this is an information dump, okay? You basically have a curriculum that you have to scratch out before the end of the school year. And you're going on a schedule, and whether they got it or not, you try to or have to move on. And unfortunately, some people do get left behind in this concept. But it's the only way to make sure that the class as a whole is trying to check these things off their list. And in that information dump, the reason I call it an information dump is because you're being given information, but you're not being taught how to study. At no point is anybody sitting down and showing you how to manage a book, how to break it down, how to extract the information you need, how to test yourself for things. Now I feel that people are trying to do a better job at it, but still it's not being taught as an actual class. So let me give you some expert secrets here, okay? You need to know your strengths. And I'm going to focus a little bit on this because it is a big part of your success. We used to think for the longest time that you were either an auditory learner, a visual learner, or a kinesthetic or tactile learner. Okay. Now, the auditory learner is the one that learns by hearing, the visual learner, obviously, by seeing, and the kinesthetic learner is the one that learns by doing. And you may already be telling yourself that you're one of these three, but the reality is that this has been debunked. We now know with great certainty that we all use all three of these. We do. The thing, we may lean more towards one than the other, but we all use all three. My daughter, for instance, her strength is auditory. She can listen to a song a couple of times and then she'll know it. She learned her multiplications by making up a beat and rhyming it. Okay. My sister is very visual. She does little flashcards for all her vocabulary words. She quizzes herself. She reads things over and over and highlights, color coordinates her highlighting, all that stuff. I'm a kinesthetic learner. I learn by doing. So I have to be taking notes. I have to be moving around. And I have to try and do things rather than have somebody explain them to me. So at the end of the day, we've learned that the best learner, the people that commit things to long-term memory faster are the ones that are hitting all three. Basically, you're trying to make sure that the way you're studying is stimulating your auditory senses, your visual senses, and your tactile senses, which means that you're trying to do the trifecta here of, brain stimulation. So how do I do that? Easy. you want to read or view a problem, but read it aloud. Make sure that you're reading that problem out loud. When you hear it, it's going to make more sense to you than just reading it. Sometimes you read a problem and you misunderstood it or you miss something, but when you're reading out loud, it's more probable that you're going to catch any mistake. Explain it to yourself in your own words, okay? I can't stress this enough. I've seen people that come and they start copying or taking notes directly from the book. That is not going to help you. You are not applying to be a photocopy machine here, right? You are applying you're trying to show your trainability and your ability to take information and interpret it. You have to put things in your own words because you will understand yourself better than you will other people's words. It's just that simple. Take notes on how to solve the problem. Let's say that you're multiplying fractions, or you're dividing fractions. You can do like step 1 is, I set the fractions side by side. Step 2, I flip the second one. Right? And step 3, I multiply across. You're going to have this as a recipe, as a formula of how do I divide fractions. Once you take notes on that, you can put it on a little Post-it, you can keep it in a notebook, then you have a way to explain the problem to somebody else, and you have a formula that's going to help you with every problem. So by doing these 4 things, you will definitely be hitting all 3 of the areas of your brain that we want for fast and effective learning, okay? Make sure to go back and pause this and take notes if you need to, okay? Let's talk about time. Oh my gosh, this is something that I love it when people say, well, I don't have enough time to. Good, I'm glad you don't. Because those long cramming sessions, we know for a fact that I honestly don't know how we used to do it back in the day. We would sit down for hours and hours and just cram. And that is very ineffective. We know now that there is such a thing called the primacy and the recency effect. Primacy is referring to the very first thing that we're learning and the very last thing that we learned. So I want you to imagine a friend that you have that you saw recently. Odds are you probably remember the first time you encountered that person, or that you had, the first time you realized that this person was going to be your friend, in pretty good detail. And you probably remember the last time you saw them in pretty good detail too. But all the times in between are probably a little blurred, whether it's the dates, whether it's what somebody said, what they were wearing, probably a little blurred. Okay. The more time goes by, the more things start to dip down into unimportant details that our long-term memory doesn't really want. We want to stay over on this side of things. Okay. So what I invite you guys to do is, and I'll give you take no notes right now. Don't take notes. I'll give you an example. If I tell you the numbers 4, 5, 6, what was the first number? 4, right? What was the last number? 6. What was the middle number? 5. Pretty easy, right? But if I come and tell you, okay, next, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. What was the first number? 4. What was the last number? 9. Pretty easy. But if I asked you to tell me the middle number, you're probably not sure which one it is. So here's the idea that I want for you. Instead of taking these long 1-hour cramming sessions and just starting and never stopping, I want you to take intentional breaks, okay? So that means that this hour, we're going to divide it into 3 20-minute sessions. Now, if you're like me, if I stop doing something, I lose momentum. It just doesn't work for me. I get distracted and I don't come back. So these breaks need to be short and to the point, literally like 2-minute breaks, whether it's that you throw out another song, do jumping jacks, sit-ups, get up, go to the restroom, go get water. Those are all ways to take a break. I just need you to take a long enough break to reset your brain, right? So that the dip doesn't get below this. Okay. We have to be able to break these sections up. So what you can do is be intentional about it. We want to make sure that that we're hitting more recency and primacy effect points and not letting the dip go down. Okay, I'll come back up here in a second to show you a little more. So make sure that you're taking breaks, that you're staying hydrated. Okay, when I tell you do jumping jacks, jam out to a song, push-ups, whatever it is for your breaks, it's because we want oxygen in our brain. That just helps with memory as well. Okay, so at the end of the day, you need to make sure that you're staying hydrated, you're drinking enough water, and that you're getting yourself a little physically pumped up, because that circulation to the brain also helps. Check your mindset, right? If at any point you're in here and you're studying and you're just like, man, I don't get it. That's a good moment to stop yourself, go back to the mindset exercises, remind yourself about the truth. Okay. Take a little physical break from where you are and come back. You need to make sure that you're staying pumped, that you're staying motivated. And even if you didn't fully understand something, the good thing is that you have another block to try it a different way. Okay, so check your mindset. Make sure you're repeating these strategies, right? Because consistency is key for success here. Now, the last thing I will say about this is that you want to make sure that you're focusing on one thing at a time. Why do I say this? Okay, these breaks that you're doing, I don't necessarily want you to divide them into, let me go ahead and bring this up. I don't want you to go ahead and say, oh, I want this to be math knowledge, this is going to be word knowledge, and this is going to be assembling objects. No, that's not what I mean by break it up. Not at all. What I want you to do actually is I want you to think of one thing. Remember the focus, the 100% focus. Think of one skill that you are particularly focusing on today. Let's say that you are doing percentages, okay? You're doing math knowledge and you're working on percentages. So the first thing you're going to do here is you are going to convert percentages into fractions, okay? Then you're going to come over here and you are going to do, I'm going to do decimals into percentages, okay? Then, but remember the break, right? So you're just going to do percentages to fractions, you take a break, nailed it, percentages, you practice it well, take a break, yay, nailed it, pump yourself back up, and then you're going to go to a test, a math knowledge test, and look for all the percentage questions that are there and knock them out. Right. So this session was focused on mastering this skill. So you are focusing on one thing at a time. You're just breaking it down in a way that makes sense and that's going to commit to long-term memory. Because what's going to happen is later on when you move on to the next skill, you're not going to be dealing with this anymore. But when you test yourself at the end of the week, you're going to run into more percentage problems that are going to help you just remind your brain, like, hey, let's not forget this. This was important, So you're going to have that weekly moment where you're bringing all the information back to the front, letting your brain know, hey, I really need this information. Let's not forget it. Okay. So hopefully this was something you took notes in, guys, because this is the gold of it all. Make sure you're applying these strategies and you will be unstoppable. Let's go.